Well, here again we are in the county of Armagh, and Armagh is mostly famous because of its apple orchards, famous for millions of them. Warehouses everywhere abound around me. At the moment in time it's been a slow summer coming, and the reason that we have the good fortune of apples growing in this county is because we're in between two rivers, and that provides a microclimate for the apples to grow. At the moment you can see that the blossom is starting to disappear, and that will be the beginning of the apples themselves. This is an apple, if you don't know what an apple is, famous for having shot off William Tell's head. But it's very famous for making cider, and I'm watching at the moment, just in front of me, I'm watching two house martins starting to fly about. So summer's coming and the heat is starting to arrive from this weekend on. Very soon these will form into proper buds, and the whole area will be covered in apples. Fantastic time to come and see the apples. We just missed the apple blossom unfortunately, but wonderful place to come and visit. We're standing at the site of the Battle of the Diamond, which in the middle of the 18th century there were difficulties within County Armagh. It had been a quite peaceful period throughout the whole of Ireland, however, but things in the background, as usual in Ireland, were divisive, and they were starting to grant Catholic emancipation. It hadn't quite happened, but they were starting to do all kinds of things. It led to division between an organisation known as the People Day Boys, who were the Protestants, and the Catholic defenders. It culminated in what was known as the Battle of the Diamond, really a small affray, but led to a pretty seismic organisation being formed, and that was the Orange Order. So this site behind me is the site of the Battle of the Diamond, and as you can see, led to the formation of the Orange Order at a man's house called Sloane. We will now go to Mr. Sloane's house. Where we are now was the former home of a man called Sloane, and it's where the Orange Order actually was founded. Previously we'd been at the site of the Battle of the Diamond, which was the beginning of the creation of the Orange Order. But Mr. Sloane was a Freemason, and the Orange Order took its, fairly confident of this, took its symbolism from the regalia of the Freemasons. So behind me is now established in Mr. Sloane's house, as you can quite clearly see, the Museum of Orange Heritage, again an important site within the social fabric of Northern Ireland. Welcome to Armagh City. Behind me is the Roman Catholic Cathedral of Armagh. It's named St. Patrick, as is which we will be visiting, as is facing me on the opposite hill, the Protestant Cathedral of St. Patrick. One of the few cities in the world where they have two cathedrals named after St. Patrick. Whole history behind it, this particular one is the newer one, if you like, post-Reformation. Started in 1840, foundation stone laid. Had to be delayed simply because of the story goes, simply because of the effect of the famine in Ireland, which has started raging from 1845 to 1851. Began reconstruction again after a decade, and I guess in the last 10 years or so it has been refurbished. Beautiful building inside, it really, really is. You'll see the contrast between it and the Protestant cathedral, if you like, which is established there from 440. It's a little bit darker, a little bit less ostentatious is the only way to describe it. This is a beautiful building inside, wonderful grounds, and two cathedrals literally within walking distance of each other. Armagh is, for good reasons, to be called the ecclesiastical centre of Ireland, and it most certainly is. It's a wonderful place to visit. Again, we are in Armagh City. I mentioned the Catholic Cathedral, which is directly facing this church behind me, which is the Protestant Cathedral, if you like. As said, St. Patrick established this site on top of the hill in Armagh back in 440, if you like. It's been established since then. Officially, St. Patrick's supposed to be arrived in 432, so 8 years later, if you like, this site was established. It's been kept ever since. Wonderful cathedral, a little bit dark and gloomy perhaps inside at first appearance. It is marvellous inside, totally opposite kind of ornamentation to what is in the Catholic Cathedral. Beautiful site, beautiful cathedral. A very important graves right around, including Banbridge, if you like, is buried here. The site also is important for a lot of other reasons, but gives a wonderful view of the city itself. Just over to my left is the Gaelic Athletic Grounds, and indeed they're called the Athletic Grounds. The Gaelic, if you like, sports was established, first mentioned in 1886, indeed quite early. So, home of the 44 local teams, very important site. So before I talk anymore, we're going to take a little walk over to the side wall and we'll point out Banbridge's grave. Behind me is the Marketplace Theatre, a very famous theatre within the county itself. Has opened for business because of previous COVID restrictions since the 24th of May. We're here during the day, so there's not too much activity, but it's nice to see the entire square here is starting to build up. It's a modern depiction of architecture. Very soon we're going to walk around to the Mall, which is really, you know, Georgian architecture, a wonder to behold, if you like, outside of Dublin. Designed mainly through Archbishop Robinson's, if you like, tuition. So that's where we're going to go now. But the square itself here, not too busy at the moment. Later on, will hopefully come back to life. Well, here we are in the Mall in Armagh. An absolutely beautiful park right in the centre of a town. Not too many have this. Again, whilst it's an Irish town, it has, as usual, the heritage from the English influence, if you like. In front of me is the cricket being played just at this moment, and that's what the Mall is kind of famous for. Cricket, which of course, strictly speaking, is not an Irish sport. It tends to be an English sport. In front of me is a memorial, and there are plenty of them cutting off each end of the Mall itself. This particular one is to the Boer War, or as it says on it, to the South African War. A lot of Irish people, of course, and those days all of Ireland was one country, so a lot of Irish people fought for the British and were, if you like, transported over to South Africa during the Boer War. So a lot of colonialism history in Ireland. This is just one more example of it. Well, behind me is the Armagh Planetarium, established in 1968. Essentially a shop window for astronomy. There's a rich heritage of astronomy in Ireland. This is probably one of the most frequented, certainly very busy tourist attraction within Northern Ireland and certainly within Armagh. Serves, I think, a really good thing, a really good purpose, because for my generation and for a certain generation, there was a very famous broadcaster called Late at Night, a programme called Late at Night. He had a monocle, he was called Patrick Moore, and he was the director of this planetarium in the 60s. And really he brought astronomy and not only the wider world, but what was beyond the wider world to ordinary people, especially school children, and gave them an interest in doing so. So yes, a lot of the visits to the planetarium are from schools, which I think is wonderful, because everything should be taught to us when we're young. The Archbishop of Armagh, and that's the Protestant Archbishop, of course, came to prominence in 1765. He was the Archbishop Robinson. He's famous because of his architectural influence upon the inner city of Armagh. We're slightly on the outside, which is called the Armagh Palace stables. He didn't quite like the house that he'd been given to. It had suffered extensively because of the 200 years of war, and he decided, shall we say, the church decided to build a better house. This is it behind me. Renovated and updated a few times, but essentially they're from about 1769 or so. Well, now we are at Eamon Maga. Eamon Maga, almost certainly the origins of the name are the twins of Maga, which is appropriate because I myself am a twin. So this is Maga's twins. The name is difficult to find the origins of it, but the very name just over the road here is Ardmagh, if you like, which is now translated as Armagh, or the height of Magh. So Magh is some sort of goddess, probably, back in times long gone. This particular mound was built on a fantastic piece of construction, an archaeological dig uncovered just how, which you can find in the interpretive centre. The mound itself is meant to be, they think, probably true, a halfway house between heaven and earth. So it's known, strictly speaking, as Eamon Magh. However, it's also known as Navan Fort, although the word fort is a kind of misconstruction by today's interpretation. Almost certainly meant sanctuary. It's known as Navan Fort and was the most important, literally the most important site in Ulster.